Hello, everyone. Welcome to Manta's Small Business Expert Webinar Series. My name is Ivy Lamb, and I'll be your host for today's event, How to Leverage Online Reviews to Boost Sales. If your business has an online presence, you've probably had some experience with reviews. Online reviews are important because they can have a major influence on a customer's decision to make a purchase. In this webinar, we'll talk about ways that you can make reviews work for you rather than just being at the mercy of review sites. We're happy to have you with us today, and we'd like to thank LocalVox, a Viveo company, for sponsoring today's event. Before we dive in, I want to cover some important housekeeping items about the event. During the webinar, you should see a slide area, which will allow you to view the webinar. You'll also see 3 tabs: Ask a Question, Attachments, and Rate This. Click on the Ask a Question tab to submit a question at any time during the webinar, and we'll do our best to respond during the Q&A at the end of the event. Under the Attachments tab, you'll find more resources related to today's topic. Go to Rate This to leave us feedback on the presentation, and you can tweet about today's event using the hashtag MantaExperts. Now, if you're having technical difficulties, please email webinarhelp@manta.com so that we can respond to you. Now, on to today's presentation. I'm excited to introduce our guest expert, Trevor Sumner. Trevor is the Chief Technology Officer and co-founder of LocalVox, a technology platform that helps local businesses market themselves on social media, search engines, websites, email directories, and mobile. Sumner has been leading product and marketing teams for cutting-edge technology companies for more than 15 years, from e-commerce and e-business in the late 90s to wireless and messaging solutions in the early 2000s. Most recently, his work has focused on platforms for local, social, and mobile. He's spoken at industry conferences such as the Local Search Association, Local Media Association, BIA Kelsey, and Founders Roundtable, and he regularly writes pieces for marketing and technology sites. Today, he's going to start by talking about why reviews are so important. Then, we'll talk about how to best respond to reviews, positive and negative, how to generate more positive reviews, and how to leverage those reviews to boost your sales. Then we'll set aside some time at the end of the presentation to answer your questions. Just as a reminder, you can submit a question anytime by clicking the Ask a Question tab. Okay, now I'll hand things over to you, Trevor.
Great, thank you, Ivy. Thank you so much. I love doing these webinars because we get to reach literally thousands of small businesses and be able to help them with marketing. And reviews is definitely one of the topics that I find to be most pressing to people because they feel like their brand is not in control. They're not in control of their brand on these sites, that it's up to the consumer, that these ratings and reviews are beyond their control. They're being misrepresented online. We even have a question already about how to make sure that the reviews even show up and don't get filtered by Yelp, which we'll be happy to cover. So it's something that's just become increasingly critical and increasingly frustrating for small businesses. So let's dive right in on why reviews are important. So reviews actually have a huge impact in our business, and we know this because we use them all the time ourselves. 88% of people trust online reviews as much as a personal recommendation. We see reviews on things like Yelp. When we actually go into Yelp and use it, we see reviews when we do a Google search for a local business and the listings come up and they put the number of stars. And if you don't have 3, 4, or 5 stars, if you have 2 stars, it's over. They're not gonna go to your business because of it. And regularly we pick the 4 stars over the 3 stars and the 5 stars over the 4 stars. That is just inherently how we evaluate local businesses, and it's been embedded in everything. In fact, 44% of customers make their purchase decision after reading reviews. It's become such a critical and ingrained part that it's an active part of what they do, and it's also implicit in everything we do. So, we typically do a lot of research on reviews before we go out and purchase something. We'll look at up to 10 different reviews across multiple different vendors. So these reviews often are critical to success or failure in beating out the competition, which means that you really need to have a strategy to both generate positive reviews, react to negative reviews, and impact your business. So how online reviews help, right? So there are lots of different ways. Well, first, it's great customer feedback. Nobody likes to have their baby called ugly, especially online and in a public place. But if we can separate the emotion from it all, the customer most likely had some type of reason to leave a negative experience. And if we can read into that, we can get customer feedback that we wouldn't otherwise get to become a better service. And that's just critical for any small business owner or any business owner at all. And it helps you, obviously, when reach new customers, as we discussed. Reviews are a big weighted factor in SEO. So, if you're wondering why your competition shows up on Yelp searches and you don't for the same terms, it has to do with reviews, it has to do with your profiles and getting all that right. Google has a variety of different algorithms that take into account not just reviews on Google itself and Google My Business, but looks at the number of reviews you have on Yelp, and even City Search, which very few of us use anymore. They actually look at the number of City Search reviews as a high ranking factor for search. And the Google My Business, they suggest to get at least 5 reviews. That'll give you an initial boost. That's like the first tier. But these are real things that affect how often you get put in front of customers at that point when they're searching for a business just like you. Now, we all focus on the negative reviews, but it's important to note that 75% of reviews are positives. And what this means is that, having a aggressive strategy for generating reviews doesn't actually create a lot more frustration. It creates a lot more positivity, and it's something that you actively should be doing as part of your strategy. So, managing your reputation. Again, this is a very frustrating process because, again, nobody likes it when somebody calls your baby ugly. And who are these people? What was their experience? What do they know about my business? We take a lot of pride in the businesses that we create. I know I take a lot of pride in LocalVox. I know with the small businesses I talk to, really, you ask them about Yelp, they look at you like they got punched in the stomach. They take it very personally. But you need to step back and say, okay, I've got this negative review. What can I do to fix it? What can I do to make it better? And the nice thing is, a lot of people just walk away because of the emotions associated with a negative review. But 33% of negative reviews turn positive when you respond to them. So don't let it sit there. You've got to respond to it. In fact, it's often good for customers to see that you're responsive to problems, right? And so not only will 33% of negative reviews turn positive, 95% of unhappy customers return if you resolve the problem quickly. So that negative review, if you can resolve the problem, turns into a customer. And that's an opportunity. That's a revenue opportunity, a real revenue opportunity to both affect your reputation online and get a real customer back in the door. So focusing and managing your reputation is absolutely critical. And taking a dispassionate approach so that you can resolve the issues is critical. Now, for local businesses, there are a lot of review sites. The ones that are most important are Facebook, Google, and Yelp. And then there's some online directories that are important depending on industry. So we have a lot of clients in Hawaii where TripAdvisor specifically is a very big directory and drives a lot of business. So if you're in a travel destination, I'm in New York City right now. New York has a lot of tourists, so TripAdvisor has a significant effect on traffic. In the service industry, YP.com is specifically a big directory that drives a lot of traffic, so you should definitely look at YP.com. But overall, you really should focus on Google, Facebook, and Yelp. Yelp is definitely more restaurant focused, although they've been trying to branch out more and more, and they have a lot of stats that say that they're being very successful at it. Google is universal. It definitely should occupy a lot of your focus because it affects Google searches. Whether you're directly on Google Maps and Google My Business, or just doing a generic search, 83% of local searches have that map and those reviews on them. So it's really important to focus there, especially if you're a search-driven business. And Facebook actually has more reviews than either of them. So Facebook actually has 4 times the number of reviews as Yelp. So, and Facebook's, and one of the reasons is because it's great, because you just have to press a star rating. You don't have to leave a long review. And that's a great opportunity to leverage your social network to boost your reviews and go after that. So a lot of opportunities, but the key is focus, right? You want to focus on making sure that you have 3.5 or 4 stars or more on these different sites. And if you don't, you really need to take action. And it's something that requires constant gardening. So those are the sites that I would recommend. There's certainly some other ones. Thumbtack in the service industry has been coming up a little bit more and more. So you probably know your business. The best thing to do is ask your customers where they came from or where they heard about you. So let's start with Facebook. So Facebook is massive. They reported earnings last night, and they are absolutely crushing it. They have 1 billion daily active users just on mobile. And that translates to about 167 million daily active users in North America. That's, half of all of America on Facebook every single day. And small businesses are obviously on Facebook as well. There are 40 million small businesses. And if you're not on Facebook, or you don't think you're on Facebook as a local business, chances are you actually are. Just like Yelp, Facebook has pulled in the directories of all the local businesses and created pages for them. So you may not think you have a presence, but if you search for yourself on Facebook, chances are there's a page there, and it's got an empty photo and an empty headline, and there are probably even some reviews there that you didn't even realize were there. So if you're not on Facebook, you need to claim that presence and immediately make sure that you're making the most of it. It's just too big a site. And the nice thing is reviewers must have an active account. So a lot of these people are easily vetted. And frankly, it's just so easy to leave a review. It's one of the networks that's more easily, I don't want to say the word manipulated, but let's say influenced by your marketing tactics. It's very easy for you to go to your friends and say, hey, would you mind just taking 10 seconds and clicking the 5-star button? And preferably leaving, a comment, because that makes it look more real. But this is one of the sites that's most easy to influence and also reaches the most number of people. And the number of reviews also affects how often you come up in Facebook's local search. And Facebook is making a lot of investments in local search recently, so it's something you should pay attention to and get ahead of. So that's Facebook. The local search is particularly interesting because in around December of last year, they launched Facebook.com/services, and it's interesting. You should go there. They've basically broken down local businesses by types of service, and this was their first foray into search. And it was so threatening to people like Yelp that Yelp stock, I think, dropped 20% that day when they announced this, because people and industry analysts, it's not quite there yet, but they're going there, and they're going to be a bigger and bigger influence on local search. In fact, the same businesses that you find on the Facebook.com services page are the same businesses you'll find when you start entering the name of something in your search bar up on regular Facebook. So you should definitely be paying attention to this. We're seeing increasingly driving more and more traffic to our customers. So this is a screenshot of the local search. You can see that they're really focused on more of the services side of the house. So things like, restaurants is, really not, a top level thing here yet. But if you're in one of these categories, you can see that they're really actively targeting you. And it's a little hard to see on a slide. So again, just go to Facebook.com/services. So let's move on to Google. So Google is the largest search engine. We all Google. People talk a little bit about how Bing has, 30% of the market share. The reality is, if you look at your website metrics, Google has 95% of the search share between Google, Bing, and Yahoo. In fact, they're definitely all the traffic really comes from Google and Google Maps and their associated properties. And so Google reviews are absolutely critical, and so most of us use Google Maps. I have an iPhone. I'm a big Mac fanboy, but I use Google Maps because it's just easier and it's better and the information is more accurate. Apple's made a lot of strides on the map side of the house, but Google reviews not only influence what shows up on a regular organic Google search. And when I say organic, like when you type in a web browser and you go to google.com and you say Italian restaurant in my zip code, or ballet classes or kids ballet classes, that's what I call an organic search. So those organic searches, 83% of local searches, the vast majority, include Google reviews from Google Maps and Google My Business. So the nice thing is that this Google My Business, you may have heard of it as Google Plus Local. It used to be Google Plus. It used to be Google Places. So they've basically consolidated all under one single dashboard for you called Google My Business. And that's where you can update your name, your address, your phone number, etc. If you haven't claimed and optimized your Google My Business page in Google Maps, if there's anything from this presentation that you take away, do that now. So just search for your business name, and in the profile it'll say, claim this business. And if there's a link for that, that means your Google My Business page is unclaimed. It's absolutely critical that you claim it because that's what helps you show up on search, and it helps you control the brand around this review page. Now you can see from this specific profile in Andrew's coffee shop, that the reviews are front and center, right? You've got the name of the place, and then it's about the reviews. Phone number, address, website, that's all below because people use the reviews. And they put it front and center, not in just the profile, but on the searches as well. And so Google My Business makes it relatively easy to leave a review and to manage and respond to reviews. So you should definitely get that account and actively go into it and make sure that you're on top of it. You should respond to each and every review, which we'll talk about it. One of the nice things is, if you're doing search engine marketing or AdWords campaigns where you're paying for advertising on Google, having a strong star rating is something that you can actually incorporate into your ad. So it's not just text in your ad, but you can actually put in your rating. And that really helps conversion. And so what that means is you can actually pay less for each and every ad, each and every click. So this is an asset that you can use in your advertising campaigns as well. So that's pretty critical and another reason to focus on it. So that's kind of Google and Google reviews. As I mentioned earlier, it has a profound effect on local SEO. So Google's constantly making changes. They made a mobile algorithm change in the spring of 2015 that people called Mobilegeddon, right? It sounded, obviously very like it was a very big change and monumental, and it was, in fact. So one of the things that you need to know on the local SEO side is that a lot of people search on mobile. In fact, over half of local searches happen on mobile devices, and Google doesn't want to show businesses that aren't mobile optimized. So if your website, was built more than 2-3 years ago, chances are it's not mobile optimized, and you will drop in the rankings on Google for mobile devices, which again is about half of local searches. So that's one example of the algorithm change. Increasingly, what you're going to find is that reviews will have a bigger and bigger effect on your local rankings. Let's think through why this is, right? So if I've got one business that's got 5 ratings and another business that's got 150 ratings, Google's got a pretty good proxy to figure out where people go and what people are looking for when they're looking for that category of business, right? It's more likely to show the popular restaurant than the restaurant that nobody goes to. So reviews are an increasing part of your local SEO ranking factors, and so it's really critical that you're focused both on mobile and reviews to make sure that you rank well on Google searches. So with that, let's move on to Yelp, everybody's most hated site. Yes, it's true. I know some of the Yelp guys. They're not bad guys. They're in a very tough position, right? And one of the things that they really want to do is make sure that reviews are accurate and based on real consumers, and so that when you do a Yelp search for a coffee shop, that they really show you the best coffee shop. Now, That's put them in a very tough position because they've really focused and prioritized consumers over small, medium businesses. In fact, a lot of what I'm seeing in terms of the questions has to do with Yelp because it's also the most frustrating network for small business owners for the same reason. It's been around for quite some time. It's really been the leader. I mean, before it was City Search, but Yelp got so much better at getting reviews from consumers. They basically eclipsed City Search almost every night, overnight. And Yelp is great for business owners because you can set up a free account on Yelp, and what that allows you to do is you get notified every time you get a new review, and you can respond to reviews. You can update your photos, your videos, your descriptions, make sure you're categorized appropriately. Those are all things that are very important. And that's because 55% of Yelpers take action with a local business frequently or every time that they visit the site. When you go to Yelp, you're looking for a local business, you're about to make a decision, and you need to get at the information you want as fast as possible. So making sure you're optimized on Yelp is really super critical. It is an important site for local marketing and something that you need to you need to be monitoring. Now, on the Yelp side of the house, we're going to answer a lot of questions. I see a lot of questions about the Yelp review policy and which reviews show up. We could talk a little bit about that in the Q&A. One of the reasons that going through each of these sites is super important is, believe it or not, 60% of local directory listings have incorrect info. That's right, 60%. And there's a lot of reasons why. There are a lot of data providers. People actually scrape the old phone books. Small, medium, and unfortunately, being a local business is really hard. And 30% of local businesses turn over every year, so you can imagine the data gets old very quickly. So there are a lot of reasons why this is incorrect. And the moment a consumer, has the wrong phone number or the wrong address, they're going to your competitor, and they might even write you a review that they're pissed off at you because they went to your business and you weren't really even there. The businesses with bad directory information, so one of the things Google does in terms of determining who ranks on Google is to make sure that their name, address, and phone number is right on lots of different sites. This is actually super, super critical because Google doesn't want to present, when I search for an Italian restaurant, it's not going to show an Italian restaurant that it's not sure the name, address, and phone number is correct. And the way they do that is looking at Yelp, looking at Facebook, looking at Manta, looking at all the different directories out there. So making sure your name, address, and phone number is critical. And so one of the things that we offer on our site at localvox.com is a free SEO report where you can put your name, address, and phone number, and it will quickly show how you're listed on 40 to 100 sites. So I highly recommend just knowing where you stand. So again, just go to localvox.com, and there's a big green button in the navigation saying local SEO report or SEO report. So definitely get an audit review of kind of where you stand and make sure the information is correct, because that's the first thing you need to do in managing your social reputation. It's hard to have a social reputation when you have the wrong phone number and all the social sites, right? So definitely do the audit. A lot of customers talk to me about responding to reviews. And if you get negative feedback, again, you can turn it into a positive. One of the things that I find is when I look at businesses, I look for a genuine voice about them, like a genuine customer service experience. It's weird to us, right, that there's so many businesses who treat online completely differently than a conversation they would have with a customer. Those reviews, those comments on your Facebook and on social are real people having real conversations with you. Yes, they're online. They're not face-to-face. But you definitely need to respond to them. And, one of the things I say is, can you imagine if a customer walked in and said, hey, Trevor, I was at your cafe the other day, and the waitress spilled hot coffee on me, and the food was, my burger was well overcooked, and then the check was wrong, and it was just terrible. And can you imagine me as the business owner turning and walking away? You'd never do that. You would never, ever do that. But if you're not responding to your reviews online, that's exactly what you're doing. And if it's a negative review, you're ignoring a problem client who's more likely to just get more pissed off that you're ignoring them, right? And if it's a positive person, you're missing a chance to say thank you and come back again. So that's one of the things that I really try and instill. You should respond to every single review online. That's a customer who took 15, 20, 30 seconds, a minute to say something about you, to communicate directly with you. Take the 10 seconds back to say thank you, or to say, let me help you with that. Show that you would never do that with a real customer in front of you. Don't do it with online customers. So in terms of negative reviews, this is always the touchiest one, because obviously no one, as I said, no one likes to have their baby called ugly. But there's a real problem here that somebody experienced. And sometimes we have customers too who are, I think, maybe at times a little judgmental and maybe are overreacting or reacting to something that I think is not there. That doesn't mean that I just tell them to go toss off, right? That you wouldn't do that. So the first thing to do is acknowledge their review and recognize their pain. They're frustrated. There's something they felt went wrong. It's upset them. Acknowledge that. Like, so sorry you've had this terrible experience. Would love to chat with you about it and see how I could resolve it. And that's the other key thing. Now, step B, take things offline. The last thing you want to do is have this reviewer then respond with every painful detail about what happened and why they're pissed off. And if you push back on what they're saying, last thing you want to turn into is a flame war, which we've seen. It's amazing to me that people don't realize that the internet is a very snarky place. And if you don't believe that, go look at what is it, Mickey D Stories or McDonald's Stories. They launched a social media campaign about all the positive things that happen at McDonald's, and man, the internet took it and ran. And I'll bet you they regret creating that hashtag. So take things offline. You don't want to get into a flame war. You don't want to air your dirty laundry. Ask them to call you or email you and see what you can do to resolve the case. And that's the last part of the formula, which is you've acknowledged their pain. You've shown that you're understanding. You've taken things offline. You're proactively trying to address the problem, resolve the issue. And again, 33% of the time, those negative reviews will turn positive. And 95% of people, when you resolve the case, will come back. You're winning a customer right then and there. You want to know how to generate more business for your startup, for your small, medium business? Respond to the negative reviews. 95% will come back if you fix that issue. Go fix the issues. That's how you drive business. So that's the negative side of the house. The positive side of the house, again, respond to each and every review. If somebody came into your business and was super positive and publicly proclaimed how wonderful your business is, you wouldn't walk in the other direction. Say thank you to a customer who went out of their way. Show your appreciation. People love that, right? When I'm following a business and they celebrate their customers, I love that. It makes me want to be a customer more. Additionally, while you're saying thank you, let's say it's a Facebook review, somebody leaves you a positive Facebook review, you could say, Dear Trevor, thank you so much for taking the time to leave a positive Facebook review. We love that you had a great experience. Leaving reviews actually really drives our business. If it's not too much to ask, would you feel comfortable leaving the same review on Google or Yelp and then link to it? Make it easy. You'd be surprised when you acknowledge somebody and the positive benefit they've had on your business. They will take the 15, 30 seconds, 1 minute to go help your business. That's what they'll do. And now you've really started to create kind of a feedback loop where you get, for every review, you get more than one or two. So I think positive reviews are absolutely critical. You should respond to every single one of them. Negative reviews, again, you got to make sure that you have a lot of positive reviews. You can generate positive reviews by talking to people, your customers that are happy. You should always respond quickly and kindly. The more you ignore them, the more they tend to get angrier. And customers actually, believe it or not, there was a poll done that people expect a couple negative reviews. When they don't see any negative reviews, then they get a little suspicious. And the example I'll use is Seamless. If you look at reviews on Seamless, a lot of they just don't look real. A business that I know had 2 stars on Yelp and 2 stars on Google had 5 stars on Seamless, and I was like, that's just not real. They've been doing a lot to actually fix that problem, but just the absence of negative reviews made me very suspicious. And so that's consumer behavior. So it's okay to have a couple bruises. That means you're a real business. That's okay. You always do want to minimize the damage, though. So you don't want them posting on other sites. Go address the problem directly. At Localvox, on our tool, we actually send you a text message every time you get a review. You can turn that on and off if you're getting a lot of reviews, and if you are, fantastic. But you can get a text message almost immediately to know that you either got a positive or negative review so that you can address it, sometimes while they're still in the store. And they're great tools that you can use to monitor all these different sites. One of the things that I hear from customers is, God, I've got to log into Facebook, I've got to log into Yelp, I've got to log into Google, I've got to log into TripAdvisor. There are a lot of unified, what they call social inboxes that you connect to all of these. You can see all your reviews in one place. You can address them quickly. Saving time is one of the biggest things that our customers ask for. And in terms of going quickly, to resolve these type of negative, be human. Don't be a machine. Don't be, people want to know that they're dealing with a person. It's much easier to be mean at a big corporate brand that's soulless. But when you're talking to a human, often it just immediately softens somebody up. So adding a human voice is pretty critical to minimizing the damage. Take it offline, right? Avoid the back and forth and public arguments. I like to do it via email because I don't like my phone number directly out there. But you can also say, please call my phone number, on my Yelp page and ask for Trevor. That's one of the things that I do just to kind of let's get this going as fast as possible. Don't do anything to push them or accuse them of anything online. And then, a lot of the customers ask, what should I do to resolve the problem? Well, one, resolve it like you would any other problem at the store or at your business. Two, because this does have a public element, a lot of customers I know are willing to be a little bit more lenient in offering freebies or discounts. And I know freebies and discounts are an evil word when I talk to small media business owners because they hate discounting their service. But, it is something that, when you have a negative online public review, it is worth a certain amount to just get the problem more positively resolved. So establish certain policies as to what you're willing to do. And then, one of the things to do is just track the complaints, right? Figure out what is actually driving these so you can fix it and tell the customer, go back to the customer and say, hey, we changed this because of you, and I just wanted to say thank you. Right? I've numerous customers have come to, in the history of Localvox, I've had numerous customers tell me about problems within our organization that I've addressed, and I always go back and email and say, it really means a lot that you sent me this piece of information because we made changes and we're a better business because of it. And by the way, would you leave us a positive review on Yelp? So that's how it works, right? It just with a little bit of time, and focus, you can really do that. But one thing that a lot of people don't do that really need to focus on is generating positive reviews. Now, depending on the site, certain sites are better than others. Yelp will tell you it's completely against their terms of service to ask family and friends for positive reviews. So you need to be a little bit careful with that. They certainly get very testy about it. But generally, I think it's a positive thing to do. That you live the life of your business. It's part of your soul, your identity. You do everything you can to make it successful. And so whether it's for Facebook or Google, I highly encourage you to talk to family and friends and juice the flywheel. Get some positive. Like when I see a small medium business that has less than 5 Google reviews, it just feels like they're not trying. I mean, they must know 5 people with Gmail accounts that can leave reviews. So, you really just today, they're if another thing to take away, just today, just decide that you're going to get 5 reviews from your friends and just, family dinner, right? Right. You're all sitting down for dinner. Everybody pull out your phones. Great. Everybody go to Google, go leave me a glowing review. Everybody go to Yelp. Great. Go leave me a glowing review. Again, Yelp discourages this. But Facebook, that's even easier. Add links to your review sites, to your email signature. If you're emailing somebody, chances are they think probably pretty positively of you. Otherwise, you're probably doing something wrong. So including your email signature, one of the things in marketing people talk about is including a call to action in all your marketing messages. And what that means is just tell the person what you want them to do, and they tend to do it. So add it to your email signature. Hey, leave us a review on Yelp. Hey, leave us a review on Google. Or hey, leave us a review on Facebook. You might be surprised how many people will actually do that. When I get that from a business owner that I like and I see that, I click on it every time and I take that 15 seconds to help their business because I'm invested in them. That's what being a local business and having relationships is all about. Feel free to ask in person. Don't ask for a positive review. Just ask for a review. And, if you're selective about asking the people who have positive experiences, if somebody's having a fit in the middle of your store and just is super angry, don't go ask them for a review. You know where their review is. So you can bias and generate positive reviews by focusing on people who seem happy. Encourage repeat reviews. As I said, if you get one review, tell them to go to the other sites. Feel free to ask on phone calls and just be honest. Like, hey, I hope have you had a good service here? Have you had a good experience? Okay, great. Well, look, I hate to ask you this, but reviews actually really drive our business. Would you spend 30 seconds or a minute and just leave us a review on Google or Yelp or Facebook? Again, I'll bet you 30% of the time you will get somebody to do that. And if you think about the number of phone calls you make every day, all of a sudden this really starts stacking up. You can create cheat sheets at your store telling people where your sites are and how to leave a positive review. And a lot of point of sale systems now, like Stripe and Square and ShopKeep, they actually have you sign your email address with your sale. If you can get a customer's email address, email them post sale and do that exact same thing. But the key is always ask. Always ask for that call to action. Tell them what you want them to do. And then now that you've hopefully, you've built and you've grown this large number of reviews, leverage them everywhere, right? Put them on, you're wondering, a lot of people say, what should I post on Facebook? You know what? Go post that Yelp review where they're telling you how amazing your donuts are or how your ballet classes were, transformational for your daughter, or, you saved somebody's home because of a roofing leak or a downed tree, whatever it is. Once you get people talking about you, you can reuse that stuff, and that is the type of stuff that people connect to. Because people don't like ads. I mean, no one likes ads because we know they're ads. But genuine customer feedback really resonates with us. That social proof really resonates with us. So use that in your marketing. Use it in your email. Use it at your store. Use it on your Facebook page. And by doing that, you can really influence the customer journey throughout, right? Because you've got all this positive reinforcement from online ratings and reviews, and you go to the website and it says, Trevor says this is the best plumber that he's ever been to, or the best doctor, or the best, pasta, or the best pizza, or the best kids' play space. And people see that with a picture of that person, and they're influenced by it. And that's the goal. That's how you generate sales. Reviews are more authentic. And so share those reviews on blog posts and case studies, testimonials on your site, brochures. You can even do it in Google AdWords. It's amazing once you have that thing that you can reuse it. And so you definitely should. So when you really start engaging this, you get a ton of value out of it. So you can obviously weave it into conversations. Where somebody, complains about it. It's like, really? If you go to our Yelp page, everybody loves our burgers, or everybody, that's really interesting. You can use it to strengthen sales conversations, all of that. So definitely use it as something that helps your marketing and your messaging. It increases, as we mentioned, your local SEO. So the more reviews you have, the better. You can use it in your email campaigns. Like, here's a great one where you said, feels like an old favorite the first time you put it on. And that resonates. That sounds good. That shirt just became more comfortable. I actually just visualized putting that shirt on my body, whereas when I go to just a regular site, I'm like, oh, a shirt. And that's the power of the voice of your customers. So that hopefully was a good overview. We got lots of questions. Ivy, how do you want to go through that? Do you want to ask the questions and then I'll answer them? You get to choose.
Yeah, absolutely, Trevor. We're already getting a lot of questions. We're going to try to get to as many of them as we can in the time we have remaining. And I just want to remind everyone else that you can submit a question using the Ask a Question tab. So this is related to something you were just talking about, Trevor, is, sort of using those positive reviews to build your credibility and to boost your marketing. And we have someone who's asking, how can I take a review from other sites and put it on Facebook?
So I think that there are a couple ways. One is you can go find that person on Facebook and tell them, hey, could you post that review? That's a little stalkerish. I probably wouldn't recommend that. But I think you can cut and paste just like that shirt feels like an old shirt the first time I put it on, right? Just like they did. Just post that, like, great review. We love our positive feedback. We love our customers. Hey, if you're interested in the shirt, click this link. So, where possible, keep an inventory of testimonials and great quotes from customers that you can reuse in your marketing materials. We have like a Google Doc where we just have all those testimonials and figure out, what's the right one to use in this piece of material or not. But, if you can reach out to them on that site, like on Yelp, you can respond to the review. On Facebook, you can respond to the review. On Google, you can respond to the review. Definitely respond and say, thank you for this wonderful review. Would you mind posting it to Yelp and Facebook or Google or whatever they haven't done yet?
Mm-hmm. So we have someone who is wondering about the difference between Google Maps and Google My Business. They say, which site should we ask a client to use?
So good question. It's very confusing. As I said, there's a long history of Google Plus, Google Maps, Google Places, Google Plus Local. The basic way to think about it is it's Google Maps for the consumer, right? So on your phone, when you search on Maps, that's Google Maps. It's powered by all that data from Google My Business. And on the local searches, when you see Maps in there, that's all Google Maps. So Google My Business is your dashboard as a small, medium business to control how you appear on Maps and reviews. So you can log in and change your phone number. You can change your address. You can change your name. You can add photos. So Google My Business is a combination of being able to update your maps, respond to reviews, and also they have a social media thing called Google Plus, which not a lot of people use, and I don't spend a lot of time encouraging people to use it more than they have to. But that's also included in the Google My Business. It also can pull in your AdWords campaign. So it's like your all-in-one dashboard for Google. So Google My Business is critical because that's your tool. But for the consumer, that we all think of it as Google Maps. I hope that makes it clearer. And by the way, if anybody has follow-up questions, I know it's a little hard because you're leaving text. I'm Trevor@localvox.com. Feel free to send me an email. I'd be happy to answer it. I'm pretty responsive. So,
great. Now we have a question from an audience member who's wondering, they're a business-to-business packaging company, and they're wondering how they can leverage reviews. So do you have any advice for those like B2B type situations?
Yeah, no, absolutely. So, on the B2B side of the house, I find Yelp to be more of a consumer property, but people are going to Google you. And if you're local, your Google Maps thing is going to come up and your ratings and reviews are going to be there. So you really, just because you're business to business doesn't mean reviews don't drive your business. So definitely keep up on that. And even in social media, right? If you have a social media, a Facebook page where you use that as part of your marketing strategy, it's pretty important that you have 5 stars or 4 stars, and people don't go there and be like, oh, this is a terrible business. People do a lot of research on business to business. So, for example, LocalVox is a software company for businesses, right? But we have a Yelp page. We have reviews on Google. We have reviews on Facebook. Those are all really important to us. So just because you're business to business doesn't mean you shouldn't pay attention to the way you're being represented online.
Great, thanks. So, and I have a question here that I think is going to be relevant for a lot of our attendees. We have a business here that says they have an old review from a couple of years ago that claims something about their business that wasn't true, and they're wondering, should they respond now, even though that negative review is a few years old?
Oh, That's a good one. It could be, at a certain point you let sleeping dogs lie. I would say, if a consumer if a consumer goes to Yelp, is it one of the reviews that's at the top? Like, because it's not necessarily chronological order. Um, so if it's if it's prominent, you should address it. You should absolutely try and get rid of it. I generally think it's better to try and get rid of it. But if it's been a couple years, I've had less luck getting people to change their reviews after a couple of years because they're like, why are you calling me now? That it almost pisses them off that you didn't call them earlier about it. So you've got to be really confident that you feel like you can overturn it and say, hey, I made a lot of changes based upon your review, and I'm sorry. Like, we're just starting to get into the responding reviews, and I know this has been a couple of years, and but we want to say thank you for your feedback. Like, I think you're probably got a decent chance at it, but it depends on how many reviews you have. Is it mostly hidden? But I don't know. I always try and give myself a chance to get the best outcome. So I wouldn't prioritize it, but I probably would get to it.
Great. So going back to Yelp, we have someone asking, how important is Yelp to your overall online reputation?
So, Yelp is so tough, right? In certain categories, it's absolutely essential. Restaurants, so critical. Retail, a little less so. Services, increasingly. Even dentists and doctors, as long as it's not one of those doctors that people don't want to talk about in public. That it's still a behemoth. You look at their numbers now. I think their ad model's a little broken, and I know one of the questions is should you pay for online advertising? I find Yelp's specific proposition not to be worth the money, which I think also frustrates people because they feel like it's a little bit extortionary. But yeah, I think Yelp is still reaches tens of millions of people every month. So ultimately, if you're wondering about it, best thing to do is ask your customers. Really, getting to understand your customers and how they find out about you and how they find out about services like you just gives you a really good answer as to what matters.
Great.
And by the way, if you already have a Yelp profile, one thing you could do is log into your Yelp for Business dashboard and see how many people are going to your profile. That'll be a pretty good indication as to whether you're even getting views and it's really worth your time.
Yeah, Trevor, related to Yelp, we're getting more than one question around how Yelp chooses to post or put up those reviews. Some people are saying, well, they put my positive reviews in the back, or they don't post all of the reviews. Can you try and help clarify that a little bit?
Yeah, so this is actually the most popular blog that we've ever posted at Localvox. If you search for Yelp review filter on Google, you'll see an article that I wrote, either number 1 or number 2, even ahead of Yelp, I think. And it'll talk about why the Yelp review filter does what it does and how to kind of influence and get around it. I'll give you a quick high level, which is, again, Yelp is really focused on making sure they provide valid reviews to end consumers. And so when somebody just logs on to Yelp for the first time and leaves a very positive review for you, Yelp's like, I don't know if this is real or not. Like, does this person have good judgment? Does this person also leave negative reviews? So typically, and this is the challenge, you ask for positive reviews, and they all end up in the review filter in the suggested versus non-suggested, and it's super frustrating. This is the thing I hear the most about Yelp. So there are a couple things you can do to encourage a customer to be what Yelp thinks is real. One is leave more than one review. Go leave a bunch of reviews. Don't do it all at once. Don't do like 100 in a day. But start leaving some, tell them to start leaving some reviews, or if it's your friends and family, if that's the strategy you're doing, again, not recommended by Yelp's terms of service. But leave a couple positive, leave a couple negative. Hook it up to your Facebook account. Hook it up to your mobile. Download the app. Because if I'm on my mobile phone with the Yelp app, chances are I'm pretty real. I've got a real phone. I'm not some fake account with some fake email address. Things that you can do is you can actually friend people on Yelp. Friend that person, because somebody with friends looks more real. Send them a message outside of the review. That makes it look more real. So there's a bunch of stuff that you can do to help that person who's being filtered out look a little bit more real. Again, I recommend, if you search for Yelp review filter, there's a blog post on Localvox that really goes into this extensively. And if you have follow-up questions, again, Trevor at Localvox, happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Trevor. So we have, again, I'm seeing a theme in some of our questions. So what if you have a sort of virtual business, such as web design or maybe mobile entertainment, and you don't necessarily have a headquarters point on a map or a brick-and-mortar location? Is that a concern, or can those people still generate these reviews the same as any other business?
You can, and look, you have an office, right? So, anybody in the United States can sign up for Localvox. And we also have a bunch of different offices, but we've basically created a Yelp page, a Google page. So if you search for Localvox NYC, you'll see our Google page with our address and name. So almost everybody has some type of physical address. And even if you're a national business. So, but that doesn't mean that it's right to, that's where people will see reviews. If you're a truly national business, people, if you're a website design company, I work with lots of website design companies. I've never looked at a website design company on Yelp and see what their Yelp ratings are. But I do go to Facebook, and I do look at the testimonials they have on their website. So you should definitely be leveraging reviews. Facebook's the most obvious one because almost everybody has a Facebook presence as part of their marketing strategy. So making sure you have good reviews on Facebook is probably where I'd focus.
Mm-hmm. Great. I think we have time for just a few more questions. We have someone who's curious to get a little more clarity on your suggestion. Going back to the point of, someone leaves you a review on one site, you can always ask them to go to another site as well. And they're asking, are you suggesting that you ask the client to post additional reviews to other sites in their public thank you response? Or should this be done privately, such as via email?
Both. I mean, look, I'm a review whore, and I'm happy to be a review whore. You just have to be authentic about it. It's hard. I don't know why it's hard for us to ask something of somebody, especially when they've already done something really nice for you. You just have to be authentic and say, look, I thank you so much. Reviews really generate your business. I loved your reviews so much. If you feel comfortable, don't force them. If you feel comfortable, why not leave this review on X or Y? Thank you so much. If you want to email them and you're more comfortable doing that, that's probably even better if you've got their contact, because it doesn't say that directly in the public sphere. But for a lot of these reviews, you don't necessarily have their email address. So, but if you got the email, definitely make the personal plea. I mean, it's an email that'll take you 15, 20 seconds to write. Hey, saw your email, your review on Yelp. Thank you so much. Is it okay if I ask you, to leave the same review on Facebook or Google or da-da-da? Here are the links. Let me make it easy for you. Really, thank you. If you have the time to do this, I'd appreciate it. You can even have a template so that you can, reuse it because you're generating so many positive reviews, hopefully, at that point.
Great. Okay, last question we have time for, and then we'll have to start wrapping up. But we have someone who's wondering, do you need to pay for any online advertisements or services to get better reviews and a better online presence?
So the answer is no, generally. Yelp's ads program allows you to feature some reviews at the top of your profile, so it looks better than it would otherwise. But generally, no service that I know of allows you to pay to get more positive reviews. Now, there are, by the way, some snake oil salesmen who will send, you could probably, if you search online, I'm sure you can find somebody, with, an army of people in Asia or somewhere that can leave you positive reviews. The problem is Yelp and Google and Facebook are really good at detecting fraud. and what they'll do is they'll shut down your page because they'll look at it as fraudulent. So you really don't want to do that. I think that said, Facebook actually does have a really nice advertising system that I find to be very effective on by most metrics: cost per click, cost per engagement. I find that it leaves you can get a lot of reviews by building your audience that way. I think you should look at Facebook advertising depending on your business. And Google obviously has AdWords, but that typically doesn't affect your reviews. So I think that covers all of them. Again, my advice on Yelp is don't buy the advertising. It's too expensive. If you're already buying the advertising, though, sadly, my advice is to keep paying it, which sounds odd. And the only reason is I've just heard too many people say that when they stopped paying it, their profile changed in a really bad way because they know you're susceptible. I don't have any evidence of that being true. I don't think it's ever been proved in a court of law that they do anything along those lines. But that would be my advice. So there it is.
Great. Well, thanks, Trevor. Now, I know you mentioned a couple times you'd be happy to field any other questions via email, but is there anywhere else you'd like to direct everyone to go to get more information or to learn more about LocalVox?
Sure, absolutely. I mean, obviously go to localvox.com, which is our website. We've got a lot of tools out there. Like I mentioned, that free SEO report that'll show you, whether your name, address, phone number, and photos are accurate on 100 different sites. We've got great ebooks on Facebook and Twitter and managing your social reputation. So, you'll have copies of slides that are like these. We actually made these slides special for this event for Manta because we love you guys. But we have a whole ebook section, and it's all free, right? I mean, our goal is to try and educate small, medium businesses. You can also ask us questions on Twitter, where we're at Vivial, Vivial, because we are a Vivial company. Or look us up on Facebook at LocalVox. We're very responsive. It's Catherine who's sitting by me on the marketing, making sure that I don't say anything silly. She's super responsive, so we'll answer any of those questions. And again, my email, and I really encourage you, if you have a question, I'll be happy to answer it, is Trevor@LocalVox. That's TREVOR @localvox.com. Thank you, Ivy.
Great, thanks. And for everyone who's listening, if you want to revisit any part of this webinar, it will be available for on-demand viewing within 24 hours. So you should be able to get back to this recording if you want to review any part of it. Also, be sure to check out Manta's other webinars, which are linked in the attachments tab. Thank you, everyone, for attending. We really hope you've enjoyed this presentation. I'd like to say thank you again, Trevor, for presenting today and sharing all that advice with us. And thank you to LocalVox for sponsoring this event.